Well, good afternoon. This is Tuesday before we take off for the wedding in South Carolina. We're, of course, excited about that and doing the last minute things, getting ready to leave and to do all the things we need to do and trying to stay safe, wearing our mask everywhere, and I hope you are too. This is a long one today. It dates back to the early days of the Protestant Reformation and to the period of Martin Luther and his nailing the 95 Theses on the wall at the Wittenberg church. And so I'll go ahead and get started. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to read a couple of shorter ones. I want to do them all together. So that way you'll have several things to use while I'm away for the next 2.5 weeks. And so you have them all in one place. So Pastor John will be sending them out this week, but you'll have them for this week and the next week, and I guess the next week too. So here we go. This is again from my set, book 1. I'm not sure where it may be in the new edition. Johann Brenz. Johann Brenz was almost 18 years old when Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses on the church door in Wittenberg in 1517. He lived in a city in Germany named Halle. He was a God-fearing man, and his influence in the church and state of Württemberg was great. The Roman Catholics, of course, did not like this at all. They hated him. In the year 1546, the inhabitants of Halle received fearful news. Emperor Charles V had sent the Duke of Alva with an army to capture the city and persecute the Protestants. The Duke of Alva had his mind set on one particular person, Johann Brenz. When Halle was taken, the Duke gave his soldiers the command to find Brenz and bring this heretic to me, dead or alive. The cruel soldiers rushed to the home of the preacher. Brenz was startled when he heard them pounding on the front door, but he quickly made up his mind to leave. Just as he ran out the back door, he heard a soldier's axe come crashing through the front door, but Brenz was safe. The soldiers searched the house but could not find him. When the Duke of Alva left his soldiers, Brenz returned to Halle and preached again the gospel of Jesus Christ. When Charles V heard this, he was furious and was determined to capture Brenz, whatever the cost. June 14 was Brenz's birthday. He was enjoying a birthday dinner with his family. Little did he know that he was in grave danger. Granvelle, an officer sent by Charles V, drove into Halle with his army, with the purpose of arresting Brenz. Granvelle went straight to the city hall. As soon as all the council members were seated, he told them that the emperor had a secret message for them. Naturally, they were eager to know what this message was. First, you must swear solemnly that you will not tell anyone what I am going to tell you, said Granvelle. The men swore an oath of secrecy. With a sly smile, Granvelle took the emperor's letter out of his pocket and read it aloud. Johann Brenz was to be taken prisoner. If the gentlemen would help him capture this heretic, the emperor would reward them, but if they did not help him, the entire city would suffer. With a fright, the councilmen realized that they had been tricked. The cunning Granvelle knew that Brenz had many friends among them, and for this reason he had sworn them to secrecy. This way they would not be able to warn the pastor of the danger. The councilmen felt trapped. They did not want to betray their beloved minister, but at the same time they were afraid of the emperor's revenge. Fear gained the victory, and they decided to help Granvelle. But Granvelle did not consider that God's fatherly eye watched over Brenz. When the gentleman swore an oath of secrecy, Granvelle had not noticed that one of the councilmen was missing, but had entered some time later. As soon as this man learned of the plan to arrest Brenz, he wrote a short note. Brenz was still sitting at his birthday dinner when the messenger brought this note. He opened it and read, "Flee, flee, flee. Run, run, run." Quickly, Brenz changed his clothes and left the house. In the street, the preacher met the soldier who was on his way to arrest him. He stopped Brenz and asked him, "Do you know where Johann Brenz lives?" Calmly, Brenz said, "Yes, I do. Let me show you." He walked back a short way with the soldier and pointed out the parsonage at the end of the street. Then each continued on his way, the soldier to the parsonage, and Brenz through the town gate to another city called Stuttgart. The Duke who lived there, Duke Ulrich, welcomed Brenz with open arms and hid him in his palace. But it was not long before a traitor told Charles V where Brenz was hiding. Immediately, the emperor sent a Spanish troop of soldiers on horseback to bring Brenz to him. The soldiers began their journey, stopping one night at the Elector of Bavaria, who served them a delicious meal and offered them beds to sleep on. At the meal, the officer in charge explained the purpose of their journey. "We have orders from Charles V to bring the heretic Johann Brenz to him, dead or alive. We found out that he's hiding at the palace of Duke Ulrich in Stuttgart. We plan to surprise him. He has no idea we're coming." The next day, the horsemen rode into Stuttgart. The officer went at once to Duke Ulrich and demanded, "Bring out Brenz immediately. I know he's hiding in your palace. These are the orders of Emperor Charles V." It was plain that the officer was sure of success, but if the officer thought he would surprise the Duke, he was mistaken. It was in turn the Duke who surprised the officer when he answered, "Brenz is not here." "Well, where is he then? I know he's here." "I honestly do not know where he is," replied the Duke. When the officer eyed him suspiciously, he added, "It's the truth, sir. I have no idea where he is. I can swear to that." Angrily, the officer rode away, wondering how Brenz could possibly have discovered their intentions. But God, who rules over everything, also took care of his child in this attempt to capture him. The previous night, when the soldiers were having dinner at the home of the Elector of Bavaria, the officer had proudly told him his errand. The Elector's wife had heard it too. The officer did not realize that this lady was a friend of the preacher. Since the officer had clearly stated that Brenz was hiding in the palace in Stuttgart, she sent a message to Duke Ulrich. It was late at night when the Duke received the message. Quietly, he woke Brenz. "You must flee once more, I fear. A traitor had informed the emperor where you're hiding. Tomorrow his soldiers are coming to arrest you. You must leave immediately. Don't tell me where you're going, for then I won't be able to tell the soldiers anything. May God travel with you and greatly bless you, Brenz." Excuse me. Let me reread that last sentence. "May God travel with you and greatly bless you, Brenz." Brenz embraced the Duke momentarily and left the palace, taking only a loaf of bread with him. Brenz was thankful for the warm night and soft moonlight. An owl hooted nearby, and little animals scurried for safety somewhere in the dense undergrowth along the path. Brenz passed unnoticed through the heavy palace gates, and then stopped. Where must he go? Suddenly overwhelmed with sorrow and confusion, he fell on his knees and begged for the Lord's assistance. Then he took the road that led him through seemingly endless beech woods. Here and there stood a little house, but all the doors were locked except for the last one. It was as if he heard a voice whispering, "Go into it." Guided by the moonlight, the preacher crept softly up the stairs into the attic, without the occupants of the house noticing. Brenz thanked God for this place of refuge as he settled himself on the floor. He drifted off to sleep just as the first streaks of dawn crept over the horizon. When he awoke several hours later, he looked around to see where he was. A few feet away from him lay a great heap of twigs. Brenz decided it might be better if he went over to the other side of this pile. Without a sound, he made his way over the sticks and then noticed a heavy beam in the far corner of the attic. What an excellent hiding place, he thought. He sat down behind the beam, ate some of his bread, and then listened sharply for any sounds that could tell him where he was and what was happening. Some time later, he heard the unmistakable sound of hoofbeats. His heart beat a little faster. It must be the Emperor's troop, who were coming to capture him. The people in the neighborhood stood outside talking about it, and Brenz could understand every word. Then the voices faded away, and the people wandered farther down the road. A few hours after this, the preacher overheard the people talking below him. "Is it true that the gates of the city will be closed?" It was a woman's voice that spoke. A man's voice answered, "Yes, that's true. The soldiers are going to search every house in this village. They're determined to catch the heretic." Late in the afternoon, Brenz heard some rustlings in the pile of sticks. He lay down beside the beam and held his breath. The sound came nearer and nearer until it was right beside him. Slowly, Brenz turned his head to see what it was. Then he smiled at his fear. It was a chicken. But soon he was filled with fear again when the chicken laid an egg. Now the chicken will cackle and someone will come find the egg, and so they will discover me. The chicken, however, did not cackle, and the preacher's fear changed to thankfulness at the goodness of the Lord. The chicken tripped away as quietly as she came. Brenz was reminded of the prophet Elijah, to whom the ravens brought bread and meat at the command of God. He ate the egg with a piece of bread, firmly believing that the Lord would care for him. And God did. Every day the chicken returned and laid an egg without cackling. But the Spanish troop was coming closer. Brenz heard the people talking downstairs. "Today, the soldiers will search our neighborhood." Sure enough, the soldiers soon appeared at the house, not even stopping to knock before they entered. The preacher entrusted himself into the care of his faithful Savior and forced himself as far into this hiding place as possible. Presently, a few soldiers went to the attic to see if perhaps the heretic was hiding there. They looked everywhere. One of the men poked his sword several times into the pile of sticks, and another jabbed at the thatched roof. "He's not up here," grumbled one. "March on," was the command, and the troop left the house. It had been 15 days now that Brenz had been in his hiding place. Each day the chicken had laid an egg near him. On the 16th day, the chicken did not come back. The Emperor's troops also left the city the same day. Brenz heard this from the people downstairs. He waited until it was dark and then quietly left this remarkable hiding place. Brenz made his way back to Duke Ulrich's palace. How surprised the Duke was to see his dear friend once again. How great was his admiration at the wonderful way in which the Lord had chosen to protect and feed Johann Brenz.